Anybody at the wrong service? Nobody? How can you possibly show up at the wrong service? Exactly. Especially since, as it says for our theme this month, you are rooted in the divine. So wherever you are, it must be the right place. We started last week talking about this idea that you are rooted in the divine, and we talked about your personal self, the self that is personal to you. You know, this is the mystery of how we're all made out of the same life stuff, the same holy substance, you can say. But we turn out individually and differently, and I think it's because we've got freedom, we've got choice. We've got creativity. We've got all of that personal stuff that makes us uniquely who we are and not somebody else. Now, this week, we're talking about our impersonal self. We're talking about everything about you that has nothing to do with choice or freedom. This is the part that you don't have a say in. It's what's in you, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not personal. How it's expressed in the science of mind is like this. There's a powerful good in the universe. And it's up to you how you will use it, what you will do with it. What you do with it is personal. Some people call that something your soul. Some people call it your original goodness. Some people call it the essential nature of your being. Whatever you call it, it's that part of you that is not dependent on your personality. It's not dependent on your talent, how much talent you've got or what skills you pick up in life. It's not your history. It's not what you own. It's not your possessions. It's not your position or your title. It's not what you learn. It's not your education. On Wednesday nights at our free 1-hour class on Science of Mind, we're talking about all the personal stuff, the other side of it. We're talking about your personality and how your personality is made up from all of those experiences and what you learn from life, and how your personality really is the theme from all the stuff that you acquire through the lessons in life and the victories and the hardships and the wins, all of that. Well, we will talk about that, but today we're talking about something else. We're talking about the stuff in you that is not personal because you didn't earn it. Isn't that wonderful? You didn't earn your life. You didn't create it either. It's just there. Oh, it's important to talk about this, I think, to talk about that part of us that is stable, because it is often the case in society, in life, that we talk about endlessly. We focus endlessly on everything about us that needs to improve. Habits that need to change, choices that need to be made differently, situations that need to be fixed, all that personal stuff, fix it. Aren't you tired? So we're asking a different question today. Today's question is this: is there anything in us? Is there anything about us that needs no improvement? Science of Mind answers that question with a definite yes. Yes, there is something in each of us that does not change. It cannot change, no matter if we do. No matter if we succeed or we fail, it stays the same. No matter if I choose this or I choose that, it stays the same. No matter if I am rich or if I'm poor, no matter if I'm this or I'm that, that something in me, it stays as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. So if that's the case, then this something in us, well, it can't be our looks. Because that changes. It can't be our salary. That changes. It can't be how many friends we have on Facebook. That changes. It can't be your talent, because all of that changes. No, we're looking for that which doesn't change. So maybe we can begin by thinking of it, that self, the impersonal self within us, as something that has always been with us, as if it is watching through us from within. And whatever we do, there it is. It's watching through us. It's the part of us, we can say, that has always existed from the beginning of time. We can say it is that which never changes. That's why we call it immortal. It's the part of us that is life itself. And I invite you this week to imagine that in you, it's whispering this: awake. Become aware of my presence, for I am life. I'm not something apart from your being. I am your being, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet am I. That comes from our assigned reading for the week from Living the Science of Mind. And in this beautiful little paragraph, he goes on to write about our personal self that is talking to us, saying that the reason why we call it impersonal is because it doesn't judge us. It certainly doesn't judge our choices. No, rather, think of it this way: it's always agreeing with our choices. Wow. It's saying yes, and then then life flows through us through the filter of our choices, no matter what we choose. It doesn't choose for us. That would be interfering. You know, when I first discovered the science of mind and I learned about this idea that what I think and what I believe mattered, I wasn't completely on board with it. I wasn't convinced. But I did start paying attention. I started paying attention to things in life, and I started to notice that actually, my attitude did affect my life. I started noticing that. I started to notice that what I expected out of life changed what I got out of it. There was definitely a connection, so I started to build a case. I started to notice that the way I was thinking had an impact on my life and also on the life of people around me. Oh, I noticed that if I showed up with a bad attitude, that life agreed and flowed through me to create chaos. Or if I showed up with connection and harmony in my mind, life flowed through me, agreed with me. So I paid attention, and I started to practice thinking along thinking along the lines that would be helpful, in my opinion. I tried to be more beneficial in what I tried to think more uplifting thoughts about my work, about my co-workers, about my family, about myself. I had to practice, and the most amazing aha came to me when I realized that I had this option to choose to think that way always. It was always there, I just hadn't used it. That the power of life to flow through me was always there in full potential. The choice was personal, but the power in me was impersonal. I just had to learn how to use it. All right, I'm going to start all over again and see if I can get this right. We'll go back to the beginning. Okay, here we go. The science of mind teaches that there is something in you, something about you, that requires no fixing. It went over better in the last service. Well, it's a lot. Yeah, right. But it's a lot to take in, isn't it? There is in me something that is in its original state of innocence and wholeness. And I can personalize that by saying silently to myself, there is that within me that is in its original state of wholeness and innocence, that requires no fixing, that is unchanging, that is wholeness itself. I've got to practice that. And Science of Mind teaches that when you and I were created, we were created out of that wholeness, and that wholeness remains our true identity, our natural state, even to this moment, whether we know it or not. Side story. Here at the Center for Spiritual Living, we do not have the sacrament of baptism. We don't have that because we do not embrace the idea of ancestral sin that is inherited, that must be blessed out of a baby. We don't have that. So what do we do when a family has a newborn and they want to have some sort of ceremonial blessing? Well, we have one. All the adults gather around the newborn and make a covenant to remember its innocence and purity, to see what we were, to remember how much unlearning has to happen for us to return to that state. And then we make promises. We make promises to do our best to remember the truth about this child and to treat it as if it were that, so that it does not lose its connection and identity to the self that lives in it. Oh, we try to teach our children that right here in the Youth and Family Program. We try to teach children, we tell them, you are as spiritual as you're ever going to be. Now, what you do with that is personal. There is as much holy life in you as there ever going to be. Now, what you do with that is personal, optional, free. That's the whole message today. So I'll tell it to you again. You. There is as much holiness in you as there ever will be. And sure, it's possible to forget that and lose track of that. I do. That's why we gather in places like this, to remember. To remember what was born in us in the beginning. To learn anew how to embrace our true nature that we sense and to remember it over and over again so that we can live from it and not live from our state of forgetfulness. And maybe you're asking yourself, as I often do, so if everything is so darn perfect, why do we pray? Well, I think there are many reasons, and one of them is we pray because there is so much focus on what is wrong with us that we become hypnotized with this idea of being fixed. We don't give enough attention to what is also simultaneously true. We do not give enough attention to what lives in us. So I guess you might say we pray to wake up from the nightmare sleep in which we are dreaming that we are broken completely, disconnected from our true nature, yearning, striving to reconnect. It's a paradox. On one hand, we're being asked to accept the perfection that is our true self, and we sense it. And on the other hand, there's this other self, the little self. Call it the ego self, whatever you want to call it, because it might have habits that are less than beautiful. It might have used language that was less than unkind from time to time. It might have shown up in a less than lovable way. Oh, I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I have felt less than a perfect expression of the divine. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I have behaved in ways that are inconsistent with the science of mind teaching. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I have not been proud of my innermost thought. See, I get it. My higher self doesn't evolve. It's perfect. Oh, but my lower self, oh, it certainly can and wants to get better. At the same time, it's all me, the higher self, the lower self, all of it is me. And I have to embrace that all. To be truly loving, I have to accept it all. I have to admit that at any given moment I'm doing the best I can with the maturity and knowledge I have, and maybe I've forgotten for a moment. Perhaps you remember Dr. David Viscott, the radio psychologist. He wrote very compassionately about the importance of accepting all of our parts. And here in this reading I'm going to give to you, he begins by talking about our personal self, and then later I'll read to you the part where he talks about our universal self. It's very beautiful. He writes, "You are the sum total of everything you did, thought, said, dreamed, avoided, embraced, abandoned, disputed, suffered, felt, expressed, withheld, promised, lost, gained, owned, borrowed, inherited, stole, needed, and loved. There is no avoiding yourself," he writes. "You are all the good and all the bad. The time spent in joyous rapture, the days of mourning and lamentation, you are your soul. What use is it to dispute what everyone knows? What is to be gained by denying what you know in your heart? You are as good as you are, and your faults are plenty. Come, accept yourself. The day is still young, and there is time yet to play." Oh, it's so wonderful. He's asking us to not make an enemy out of our personality and our history or deny it, but to embrace it. It's all included. And our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, asked the question, is it too much to believe that you are wonderful? I thought about that, and I know for me, I had to practice. I had to practice by saying silently to myself, something inside of me is kind, and I'll let that guide me. Something inside of me is beautiful. I'll let that inspire me. Something inside of me is good. I'm going to let that choose for me. Now, David Viscott, he calls that your best self. We call it your impersonal self. And here is how he describes it. Within you is an island of sanity, your best self. It is a source of power, a reservoir of strength. You find it only when you believe in yourself. And you present it to others only when it is safe to tell the truth. Choose to be with people who care about you, who bring out your best. Your best self is found in acceptance, nurtured by simplicity, and maintained in vulnerability. When you live a life that is less than your best, you have less to give to the world. When you are not your best, the world suffers because your presence is a drain. Your best self starts sentences with the words, "I love," I understand. I accept. I forgive. I trust. Your best self is defined by giving. Your best self is childlike, open-eyed with wonder, expecting to produce magic, but never looking to be delivered out of desperation. So keep company with your best self, and you will be a friend to the world. Now, don't you know that the assigned reading for this week from Living the Science of Mind is all about that? Staying in close personal contact with that impersonal power that is your true self. And it is written in such a beautiful style, in the style of a message from yourself to you. It's like it's a memo from God. It's just beautiful, and it can be read and used like a meditation. For example, like this paragraph, which I'll use to lead us into our meditative practice. In the heart of each I live. At the center of all creation I dwell. I fill all space. I am all in all, over all and through all. From the mightiest form to the smallest atom. My presence covers all, pervades all, and animates all. Besides me, there is no other presence, no other animating principle. Wherever you look, you will see me. Wherever you go, you will find me. And to answer the question, why do we pray? To remember that that lives inside us. To come back consciously to that. To dwell upon it. To know it. To accept it. I invite you to breathe in with me. And exhaling, letting your eyes close, won't you know with me that there is a powerful good in the universe which is responding right now to me, to this word. And it is bringing into my experience everything that is necessary for my happiness, for my peace of mind, for my health and for my success. This power for good is what enables me to help others. And in me, it is a blessing to the whole world. So I say quietly to myself, there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life right now. It is flowing through me, circulating in me. I am one with it. I say to myself silently, I am guided daily by this presence within, so that I shall know what to do in every circumstance. Divine intelligence is guiding me in my loving, in my self-expression, in my joy. And as I speak these words of affirmative prayer, I am simultaneously realizing that I am one with all beings. So I affirm that this silent power that flows through me flows also through all creation. And realizing that the world is made up of people just like me, I feel my kinship with all life. I bless the world and I affirm that it is already under the divine government of goodness. And I let that come out through me in my choices, in my words, in my actions, and in my life. No, this is something to be glad of. There rises up in me a natural sense of celebration, which allows me to let go, release this word of prayer to that aspect of the divine that we call the law. And I invite you now to sit with me in a moment of quiet contemplation.